This week on the Hornets.com Coaches Show, assistant coach Chad Iske drops by to discuss how the season's going and the All-Star break, and what he thinks about Miles Bridges and Kemba Walker's chances are on All-Star Saturday night. This is the Hornets.com Coaches Show.
Welcome to the Hornets.com Coaches Show. I'm Matt Ruchinski, joined now by Chris Kroger. We're going to have a special guest again on us. Chad Iske will be joining us later on.
I think Coach is just done with us, by the way. JB said I've had enough.
I think he'll be back, but I think he's got some things going on. He's a busy fella, you know. Getting to talk to both of us on a week-to-week basis, we both have significant others. They don't want to talk to us day to day.
Yeah, no, we'll take anything we can get at this point, I think.
So we're in the midst of a 4-game road trip. Thankfully, we're back home for a day or two. You have a chance to catch up with you. Have a chance to catch up with Coach. 1-2 so far on the road trip. Got to get a big win in Orlando tomorrow to close it out before the All-Star break.
Yeah, I think you knew it was going to be a little daunting when you think about the fact that the road trip started with a back-to-back at home against LA, and then you go to Dallas to play the very next night. And of course, they made a big trade, and out goes half their roster. In comes Kristaps Porzingis, who's not going to play anytime in the near future. And just a weird couple of games right before the trade deadline. I think you could feel just how tense everybody was. Coach was talking about it. You just get through the deadline. I think everybody exhales a little bit, and there's that sense of calm of, okay, we're all together still. We're a team. We're gonna push through this. So Hornets came up short at home against LA on the back-to-back. Then against Dallas, too. Game was there for the taking in the fourth. Then they bounced back Saturday. An incredible offensive effort, 129-120 over Atlanta. 19 threes and 42 attempts. 30 assists on the year on the game as well. Which that number for the Hornets has been such a great barometer. They get north of 25 assists, and then obviously it didn't go the way you would have liked to draw it up the next time out, as well as the Hornets came up short in their next game. But I think when you look at this team right now, if you can find a way to bounce back and knock off Orlando, and you close going to the All-Star break with 2 wins in the last 3 attempts, I think it'd be pretty good for the Hornets.
Yeah, this road trip has kind of summed up the season a little bit. It's just been a little inconsistent. In Atlanta, like you said, you found your offense. It looked really good. Then Indiana, your offense kind of disappeared.
Yeah, and to a certain extent, you knew it was not going to be easy against the Pacers, right? You're in their building. They're an incredible team at home, just an unbelievable home record on the year. The Hornets were 3-16 in their last 19 trips in Indiana going into that game, so now make it 3-17 in their last 20 games. And the Pacers had the longest active win streak in the NBA going in. 5 straight wins, now it's 6 straight, and they're the number 2 defensive team in the NBA. And boy, did they do a number on the Hornets last night. 32% shooting for the Hornets, just 7 made threes and 10 bench points. I mean, you look at it across the board, it wasn't pretty. And all that being said, the game was right there for the taking going to the fourth quarter once again.
Yeah, there's no Victor Oladipo, but that Indiana team is not going to be an easy out for anybody. They're incredibly balanced and play such tremendous defense, as you said.
Yeah, and they've added Wes Matthews to the mix, too, in the buyout market, which has become one of those secondary options to improve your team. And now you look at the buyout market and you think, okay, well, who can come in off the street and maybe add a little something to our team? And Wes Matthews comes in immediately, starts for them, pushes Tyreke Evans back to the bench. And so I think if you go across the board 1 through 8, for Indiana, I don't know how much of a gap there is talent-wise. They might not have a superstar now without Victor Oladipo, but they got a lot of really good talent. It's hard to beat a team like that.
All right, I can't pass up. You mentioned the buyout market. We got to talk about what this team did in the buyout market. Adding Shelvin Mack. What does Shelvin Mack bring to the table for the Hornets?
Well, he brings a veteran presence. I think an 8th-year man in the NBA. He's been now with 8 different teams, although I really say it's a 7th. That cup of tea he had in Atlanta via trade doesn't count as the Hornets took him off the waiver wire. And, of course, he's got a familiarity with Ron Norred, his college teammate at Butler. They were in the backcourt together in 2011 against, who was that team? UConn, maybe?
UConn.
And then who was in that backcourt? I think Kemba Walker and Jeremy Lamb. And, so now they're all one big happy family. And so, I think Shelvin brings a veteran presence for a team trying to make a playoff push. And this is not an indictment on Devontae Graham by any stretch. And I also think it's no need to worry about Tony Parker. More than anything, it's a chance to improve the roster. And Mitch Kupchak had said all along, you go all the way back to right before the season started, rounding out training camp, he had that 15th roster spot open. And he said, I like the flexibility of keeping it open. You never know if you can make a trade 2 for 1 during the season, or who might be there later in the year. And I think Shelvin Mack, it was just the right time to maybe add another piece. And I think Devontae, 34th overall pick in this year's draft, has already exceeded expectations, so he's ahead of schedule. And it's not an indictment on him by any stretch, but I think you could see a heavy dose of Shelvin Mack.
All right, always want to get that inside information from Chris Kroger. You're on the bus, you're traveling, you're on the plane. So when these guys are sitting together, are Shelvin and Ron going to sit together at the front of the bus and Kemba and Jeremy go to the back? How are these guys getting along?
No, Shelvin went right to the back of the bus with all the players. It was funny. We got on the bus to go to shoot around on Monday morning and in Indianapolis, and Shelvin just walked on the bus. And, we've been through now, at that point, it was 55 games. It's all the same faces. So you see a new face on the bus. So everybody said, welcome, Shelvin, and he went back to the back, and I think he tried to get a lay of the land on how things work. But, no, it was interesting. I got to watch him warm up, and Ron Norad warmed him up before the game. And I just thought, how surreal is that got to be in the city where they played their college ball in Indianapolis at Butler, and your former backcourt mate is now warming you up as your assistant coach in the NBA. So life has a crazy way of working itself out.
Storylines just write themselves for us. We love it when that happens.
And it was funny, too, before the game, during warm-ups, you had Jay Hernandez, one of the Hornets assistants, sitting courtside talking with an old friend, and Ron said, hey, Jay, you grab a guy. I got a guy right here. We'll go 2-on-2. What do you say? And Hernandez said, no, I'm not doing that. Forget about it.
Well, Hernandez works with Kemba a lot. I'd like to see that matchup.
That wouldn't be bad.
Speaking of Kemba, when we're talking about consistency and this team trying to find consistency, never have to really worry about consistency with Kemba Walker. But he might be playing the best basketball of his career right now. 5 straight games, 30-plus points. Only one other Hornet has ever done that. He's a 3-time All-Star himself, Glen Rice, another guy who Kemba is now chasing records.
A record that stood for 22 years, and Kemba's rewritten all the history books and record books for the Hornets franchise, as we know. So that's another one that could tumble one more game, and then all of a sudden that's his record all to himself. And then on top of that, over the last 6 games, he's hit 4 threes in every single game, which is now broken his own record. He had the previous Hornets record. It was 5 straight games with 4 threes made or more, and now he's done it 6 straight times. And he's averaging 34 points per game over the last 5. Only James Harden and Paul George average more.
Do you realize when we're watching this how special this is?
I think you forget now how hard it used to be at times for him to score. And now you look at him, and he just pours it in. There are stretches where he can get to any spot he wants to get on the court. He's got an electricity to his shooting where he's just locked in, he's in the zone. And you think back to 3-4 years ago, which wasn't that long ago, it wasn't this easy to score. It is now incredibly easy for Kemba to score. And it's not to say it happens every night, but it's not uncommon for him to go for 30-plus. And you think back all those years ago, if Kemba went for 30-plus in a game, what a monumental achievement that was. So he's kind of desensitized us to just how incredible he is as a player, and that's a testament to how great he is. And you mix on all the things on top of that, what he's done from an assist standpoint, too. He's averaging 7 assists during this stretch. So it's not as if, okay, I'm just scoring, I'm facilitating my teammates. And this is the most incredible part, I think, about Kemba's game, too. He's approaching near 50 secondary assists on the year. Well, secondary assists now are what you used to quantify as a hockey assist, the pass that leads to the assist. They track that now. Kemba's top 10 in the NBA in secondary assists. And he's one of 7 guys in the NBA to be top 20 in points per game and assists per game. So it's pretty rare air where Kemba's at, and he's trying to put this team on his back once again.
I don't think there's any question that Kemba Walker should be an NBA All-Star starter the way he's playing right now. We'll get Coach's take on that in a minute, and we'll be back to talk about the playoff push. We'll talk about upcoming games and the All-Star break after we catch up with Coach. We'll be back right after this.
Hey, Hugo, before we do this job swap, can you show me how this half-court shot thing goes? I'm not the most experienced with basketball. Yeah? Okay, great. Okay. All right, so I bend my knees. Oh, arms up. Oh, I'm glad I didn't ask you to show me how to dunk. How do I get down?
Welcome back to the Hornets.com Coaches Show. I'm being joined by assistant coach Chad Iske now. Chad, thanks for joining us. No pressure, but JB is now giving us your second assistant coach to just come on the Coaches Show. So you're ready to fill in these shoes, right?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. So this team, obviously, in the midst of a 4-game road trip, 1 and 2 to start the road trip. Another game coming up in Orlando. Tough outing last night, but that Indiana team is going to be a tough out for anybody who's playing them, especially on the defensive end.
Yeah, no question. I mean, you said it right there. They're a top defensive team in the league. They got a depth of veteran player there that's been through a lot of battles together and in big games, in playoff games. So they know what they're doing. They've been good defensively all year, and they make it hard for people to score. And I think we missed a lot of good shots, but they also helped us miss some shots, I think. And winning on the road is tough no matter where, but against the top teams in the East, West, doesn't matter. The top teams in the league is a challenge. You got to play really well.
We know for you're a defensive-minded guy. You're probably you're the defensive coordinator of this group in essence. So when you're looking and you play a team like Indiana, is there still a little bit of a respect when you see the way that team plays defense and you go, this is what we're trying to get to?
Yeah, I think definitely that's somebody that you can look up to and look down the road that we'd like to be like defensively. Just their physicality, the way they make you work for everything and they challenge everything you do. It might not seem noticeable on a 1-2 play stint, but over the course of 48 minutes, that wears on you. Mm-hmm. Wears you down, and in the energy of a game, that can come into play in the fourth quarter when things get close. The team with more juice, more energy, a lot of times can prevail.
With this team right now, offensively, we're hit or miss. It seems like we're trying to find some consistency in what we're doing. But defensively, over the course of the last month or so, do you feel like this team has really kind of settled in and found its defensive identity?
Yeah, I think we're still figuring it out, but I think we're in a much better place than we were 20 games into the season. I think we have a better understanding of our roster and our players and what they do, and I think they're learning what we want, and so I think we're getting to a place where we kind of have a somewhat common ground of what we want to go into each night. So that it's not a completely different game plan, different scheme every night, no matter who you're playing, because that gets difficult with the number of games that you play and the talented players you're playing against. So I feel we're getting to a better place there.
We know certain guys on this team, MKG, Marvin Williams, Nick Batum, are considered great defenders. As the season has progressed, there have been guys on this team that you have stepped up and you said, this guy's a better defensive player than I thought he might be?
I think at times everybody's, had to answer that call.
Well, Coach doesn't make it easy. You have to answer that call, right?
No doubt. Kemba at times has to be a guy on the ball as much as you are. This league is dominated by guards so much. Mm-hmm. And luckily for us, Nick, you already mentioned, a lot of times, takes that on for us to, because Kemba is so important to us on the other end as well, that it's nice to be able to put somebody else on the dominant ball handlers of the league. And Nick, of course, has done that. Jeremy's had to do that some. Miles, we're trying to get Miles in his development to get a guy that can guard multiple positions for us. And I think along with that, with Mike and Nick, and even Marv, you get a group that can switch a lot of things, mm-hmm. Which is helpful. But our bigs, Biz has been great for us over the last month, and Cody, has been solid all the time.
What has Cody's return meant to this team as he's come back from injury?
I think it's, he's been a member of this team for a long time, an important member, just in spirit and mentally for our guys. You know what you're going to get out of Cody. You can count on it day in, day out. A good teammate and his effort on both ends of the floor. And Kemba and him have had a great rapport for years, and especially this year. I think that there's a comfort there with Kemba, mm-hmm. knowing him and Cody's reads together, playing together. Just for the general fan, a Stockton and Malone type mm-hmm. thing. In a different way, but that same kind of feel where what the other guy's thinking out there on the court. It's huge, and I think overall we did a great job holding court, or holding serve, if you'd say, while he was out.
Right.
We knew it was going to be a task without him. Biz was a huge addition to us there, especially after not playing a lot in the beginning of the season, helping us get through that. And, I think it was great that we were able to kind of hold our ground through his absence.
We've all heard when Cody returns, he's one of the best screen setters in this league and on this team. Mm-hmm. Is that an underrated skill in today's NBA, how good of a screen setter you can be?
I think it's definitely underrated. It's one of the most important skills there is. Just considering what I said earlier about being a guard-dominated game as you look across the league, the top players, and so many of it being point guards or guards that need to get open, and the bigs that screen for them, either for shots or for drives. It's huge, and it's definitely an underrated skill because you can see when it's not there a lot of times how the ability of the defense to be able to get around a screen or stay in the play, and for Kemba to feel that verse, Kemba feeling freedom of movement, knowing somebody's not there as he's pulling up for shots. I mean, mentally it's a huge difference, I think, for him.
And no surprise, maybe coincidentally, maybe not coincidentally, Cody returns. Kemba might be in the midst of one of his best offensive stretches of his career when you break it down. 30-plus points in 5 straight games. What are you seeing from Kemba Walker out there?
I think, he's amazing. It's hard to be, Superman if you say 82 games a year. So there's always going to be little bits of ups and downs. But I think, mentally, like I said, getting Cody back and just that understanding of each other and what they're going to do at all times, I think helps him. Frees him up a little bit mentally, which is hugely important. Out there on the court, as much as him physically having his legs under him. I think that addition has just, helped him get back to where he was.
You also mentioned holding serve when Cody was out. This team right now, sitting in 7th, right where we kind of want to be. Obviously, you want to go higher if you can.
Sure.
But right now, with 25 games left after the All-Star break, the important thing is to be in this hunt.
Yeah.
Right now, what is this push going to take in the last 25 to get us into the playoffs?
I think it's, we need to recharge our batteries a little bit, but we put ourselves in the position that we want to be in. That was kind of the goal, one of our goals from the beginning, put ourselves in position to get to where we want the playoffs. And we did that. You can focus on some of the missteps along the way, but if you just take it all as a package, we're right where we wanted to be, and that we're giving ourselves a chance. And now we know the last 25, 26 games that we have, we're going to have to take it up a notch. It's a lot of times, from the coaching side of things, you like to split the season up into, varying amounts. And you could say the first third is up until around Christmas. Second third, we're just finishing up till break. And then you get, around the last third of a season, that home stretch after break. And as coaches told the guys, it's a sprint. It happens quickly. And it's a lot of games, a lot of tough games, a lot of important games. So we got to recharge our batteries over these few days, have some fun, but also be ready for the sprint. We got to be ready to come out of the gates.
And you mentioned 26 games because there is still 1 game left before the All-Star break against Orlando.
Yeah.
What's it going to take, and how important is it to finish this part of the season strong heading into the
Sure.
break?
It's everybody's looking forward to All-Star break, but we got to start All-Star break on Friday. And it's tough in this league. It's been such a grind, especially for young guys that aren't used to it, to get to this point, and you're 60 games into a season over 3 to 4 months, when you're used to playing 35 in a whole year, a whole season, that you can't help but, man, I can't wait to get this week off. But that week off can't start until Friday, and it's just a fact of the matter that teams sometimes fall into that trap, and we got to be a team that takes advantage of somebody that is in that mode, not be a team in that mode. And it's a big game. Orlando's in a similar position, trying to fight for one of those last spots, and it's a big game. We've been lucky enough to win the first 2 meetings with them, and winning a third would give us a tie break on another team we're in the race with.
We know some of these guys will get some rest and relaxation. 2 guys that won't get a whole lot of rest and relaxation this coming weekend: Kemba Walker, Miles Bridges, both competing in All-Star events. First, let's just talk about Kemba. Is there a better representative of the Charlotte Hornets than Kemba Walker to be starting in the All-Star game?
Yeah, no, it's my first year here with him and being around. So I had a lot of knowledge just seeing him from afar, through his first several years, and now being around him. No, what an advocate for the city and the organization. Always a smile on the face, loves the fans, loves the city, genuinely. Everything, and to have the game here and have him representing it as a starter, you can't get any better than that, and he deserves it 100%.
Then he'll be going up against the stacked field in the three-point contest. I don't know if I've seen a field this strong ever in the three-point contest. When you look at it, what do you think Kemba's chances are?
Hey, he's defied a lot of odds all the way to this point, so he's my guy. I got to go with him no matter what. Find a way to get it done.
All right, Miles, have you seen anything as you guys have been practicing, anything you can tell us, Is there any kind of things going on with Miles as he's getting ready for this dunk?
I think he's been thinking about it a little bit. We had to stop the other day because I think there were some cameras in there and he was trying to practice a little bit. We wanted to make sure he wasn't showing stuff too early. But, for him, I haven't seen him practicing it a lot, but just in practice in general, the things the guy just comes up with naturally as he's playing in a game at times are pretty exciting. So I'm sure he's got some stuff up his sleeve that people will be excited about.
If you had to give him advice, would you say, hey, go creative, find the crazy thing the next crazy thing somebody's going to do, or just go straight power with the dunks that we're used to seeing?
Right. Well, I'm torn, because being a little bit older, I'm used to old school. Let's go make some dunks. Let's go make some powerful dunks. But it seems to be more about the entertainment and the creativity. The costumes and all that, and then you miss 8 straight dunks and it's okay. I don't know, but for me, let's go do a powerful dunk that you're gonna make.
Throw that first one down. That's what I've been telling everybody. The first one's the most important. Just make the stupid thing, and then we'll see how things are gonna go from there. For you personally, obviously, you get a little break. Nice to have some family time coming up. Is that where you're just gonna spend the All-Star break with the fam?
Yep, I think so. I'm gonna try and lay low and spend some time with the wife and the little girls at home and just enjoy them and stay here in town but stay away kind of from the building and get some good time with them.
All right, well, hopefully you get recharged as well. We'll be right back on the Hornets.com Coaches Show.
Either we win it or there's overtime. Lamb's gonna have to fire. Got it! Kemba bounces into a 3. Enough legs to get it through! Buzz City. It started 30 years ago. You're the best fans then, the best fans now. Let's have a great year.
Welcome back to the Hornets.com Coaches Show. Just joined by Chad Iske. Always good to get Chad's take on things, but we're back to Matt and Chris, and I want to get your take on things right now, the way things are shaping up. We've only got 26 games left. That's insane to say. First, we were talking about this midway point. People got to get this right. We're at the 2/3 point of the season.
Oh, yeah. We used to think of the All-Star break as the line of demarcation, halfway mark of the NBA season. It doesn't work that way anymore. But I also think it's also made the final I'm going to say half, even though I know it's not half, the final half of the year, that much more thrilling and entertaining because now it's an all-out sprint for the playoffs. In 26 games, I think you talk about rest and pacing yourself, all that literally, every coach will tell you that's out the window. You got 26 games, you better go find a way, 25 games really after the Hornets hit the All-Star break, you better go find a way to just stack wins. And I think you start to scoreboard watch a lot more. So it almost creates a playoff feel about a month and a half out of the playoffs, and I think that's a good thing for the NBA. So you're right, it's not technically halfway by any stretch, but I think what it's done is it's really amped up the urgency and the intensity after the All-Star break.
But when you get to this point in the season, you just want to know you have a chance and you're part of the mix and really going for it at this point. Because there's teams that are sitting there going, okay, we're done, we're out of the playoffs at this point. Love to be in contention, playing really well, but also just hovering around that 7 spot right now. When you look at the way things have kind of shaped out in the standings, are you surprised at where we're sitting right now?
No, I think the Hornets have handled themselves pretty well overall. You know, they've never had a losing streak of longer than 3 games. Now, they've never had a winning streak longer than 3 games either. So that's part of the reason I think they're hovering around 500 right now. But I think when you don't get too low by any stretch, you've given yourself a chance. And I think that's where that streak where the Hornets won 7 out of 10 was so crucial. It brought them some breathing room room. It's not going to be enough. You got to do something like that again. I think this team needs to go on another streak somewhere along the way where you'd say they won 8 out of 10 or 7 out of 10, or they went on a 4 or 5 game win streak. And the Hornets have 13 games at home, 13 games on the road the rest of the year, and I think that opportunity is still there for the taking. But, you know, you look at where the Hornets sit, 7th in the Eastern Conference. They're only a game back of 6th in Brooklyn. They've still got 2 more games to go against Brooklyn the rest of the year. They hold the head-to-head tiebreaker with Detroit, who sits a half game back. Essentially, that's a full game up on Detroit. And they're up 2-0 in the season series with Miami and Orlando, who are both lurking in the playoff race as well. And obviously, divisional foes, they got 2 more games with them. You win one of those against both of those teams, and now you've got crucial tiebreakers. So Hornets are in great shape. Washington's still hanging in the mix. Hornets have 3 more games with them. Obviously, they lost that first one in Washington just about a month or so ago. But I think the Hornets have positioned themselves very well. And you go back over the last couple of years, I think the one thing you'd say, maybe where did the playoff race slip away? I think you could probably say it wasn't winning those head-to-head games, especially in your division and with the teams around you in the playoff hunt. You got to win those, and the Hornets have done that so far this year.
And they've set themselves up for further success as long as they can continue to win those games.
Yeah, and I know coaches probably say, all the games count the same, and we're not worried about this, but the Hornets, by the numbers, have the 4th hardest strength of schedule remaining, and it's the toughest in the Eastern Conference. So it's not going to be easy, and I think that's why this team's got to have this mentality of, hey, we're not done yet. We haven't gotten there by any stretch of the imagination. Meanwhile, Miami, I think, has the 8th toughest schedule remaining. Detroit's sitting at 21st, and then Orlando's at 29th. Orlando's played a bulk of their tough schedule already, so they've got that in their favor. But right now, the Hornets clearly are a team that says, if we win this game Thursday in Orlando, go up 3-0 on the Magic, that feels like that game counts double.
13 in a row against the Magic. What is the special formula that this Hornets team has, and what's going to take to get that win before the break?
You know, it's funny. I think you asked JB when we saw him the last 2 times. By the way, the combined total of points between the 2 teams, 57 points
out of 13 games.
Yeah. Out of the 2 games this year alone, 22 in one game, 25 in the next, and so the games have not been close. The average margin of victory, I believe, has been double digits during this 13-game stretch as well. So it's weird. All these games take on a life of their own, yet somehow it always seems to wind up in the Hornets' favor. We all know that's not going to last forever. That's the way this league is. But I think the Hornets match up well with Orlando, now especially that Cody's back. I think he always gives Nikola Vucevic a handful. And I think the Hornets always have, with Kemba Walker in the backcourt, the advantage in the backcourt as well. And so I think when you start there, it's a pretty good formula. But now JB jumps right in. He said, oh, this is pretty good. You already got a 12-game or 11-game win streak working against the team. I'll just hop right in. So he's taking the last 2.
All right. Well, the Hornets obviously would like to pick up that win before the break. Let's talk All-Star for a little bit. We've got, obviously, we know Kemba's an All-Star starter. He's also in the 3-point competition. Miles Bridges will be competing in the dunk competition. We'll have complete coverage on Hornets.com. Multiple events going on all weekend long. We'll be all over the city, not just covering our guys, but covering all the events that are happening. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's going to be a great weekend. But let's talk dunk contest for a second. Miles has a shot.
Yeah.
Only 1 of 4. That's how the dunk contest works.
Not bad. I'd take a 1 in 4 odds.
1 out of 4 right now. What kind of chance do you give Miles in the dunk contest?
Well, I think he's got a couple of things in his favor. You know, we heard our owner and chairman, Michael Jordan, speak earlier today about the juice you have in a crowd. When you're the hometown guy, he won the MVP at the All-Star game in '88 in Chicago. There's just this electricity in the building, and you feel it. You feed off of that. And your teammates do to a certain extent, too. And I think even in the skills competitions, I think that's true, too. So I think for Miles, yes, there's a lot of pressure with that being at home, but I think he's going to feed. He's a guy, you think about it, his whole game is based off energy and
power.
Right. And so I think that just visceral nature in which he dunks, which is flying high and just jamming it home with power, I think really plays well in an environment like this. So how creative can he be? I would say the less creative, the better, in a weird way. I think this is the problem I often see with the dunk contest. You try to overthink it. You try to do the craziest thing you've ever seen. If you land it in the first try, it's great. If not, you lose the luster, right? You get one chance to really blow people's socks off. So I think you got to be creative, but only to a certain extent. So, let's think about it. Do we throw on some theatrics for Miles? We go costume? I don't know. We're in Charlotte.
Who knows?
MJ's the owner. Yeah. Do you try to take off of the free throw line? Maybe. Or, Grandma Ma, former dunk participant here in Charlotte with Larry Johnson. So I don't know, maybe, and I think Larry and Miles are kind of built the same way, right? Power dunkers, big physical athletes. So I don't know. I've got no inside info on this. I'm just spitballing. So Miles, if you're listening, there you go. You
I was
can
going
take
to say,
my advice.
maybe these are tips off the bus that Chris is hearing or anything like that.
No, these are all my ideas. If they work, I want a royalty.
All right, that's fair enough. But, I remember covering Gerald Wallace in the dunk competition. The important thing is make the first dunk. The first one, though. Don't miss your first dunk. You miss your first dunk, things can kind of snowball on you in a hurry. So.
And Rex had said the same thing. Rex Chapman was in the dunk contest. He said he did it one time, never wanted to do it again. He was there in '91 at the dunk contest with Larry here in Charlotte, and he was a high flyer. He had pogo sticks for legs and could get up. But he talked about that, just the pressure of, man, I just got to make a dunk. And in a live game, you would never think that, I could dunk all day long. But there is so much pressure with 18,000 plus and millions watching on around the world. So it'll be interesting to see. But I think Miles is going to handle himself well, and he's just got this infectious nature about him that sometimes I don't even think he realizes how big the moment is, and that can be a good thing for him.
Now, while dunk contests often calls for more creativity, a little more pressure, 3-point contest, you got to do one thing: hit three.
Shoot.
Kemba's doing that pretty well this season.
Well, and I remember Kemba had said when he was going through the paces to get ready for his first 3-point contest, and he was warming up and he had to go from rack to rack to rack, and he got all the way to the final ball on his last rack, and this is in practice, and he had 9 seconds left on the clock. That's a no-no. That's too much time. And so he didn't even realize just how much you need to pace yourself and the rhythm and the tempo of it while also saving your legs. So that's an incredibly hard skill. These guys make it look so easy. The Damian Lillards, the Klay Thompsons, the Steph Currys of the world, they just go from rack to rack like it's nobody's business. But there's a real methodical nature to how you do it. And I think now that Kemba's done it, it's beneath his belt. I expect Kemba to be right there in the mix in the 3-point contest, and it's going to be fun too to see Dirk Nowitzki. What about Dirk, who's going to partake in the 3-point contest at 21 years in the NBA, former winner in the 3-point contest. Would we be shocked if Dirk makes it to the finals?
No.
What do we say? I think it's possible.
It is possible. Maybe he rides that momentum of his last.
Yeah, so I want to see if we can root, I'm wanting Kemba and Dirk in the finals.
Kemba-Dirk finals is what we're going for. Well, Kemba made it all the way to the finals in his other All-Star appearance in the 3-point contest, as you mentioned, but also just a completely stacked field.
This is about as good as it's been in a long time, and I don't know, does Del Curry come out of the rafters to join in on the mix, even though he's not technically invited? Who knows? I think all the Currys might be in on the 3-point contest in Charlotte, and Kemba's trying to bat him off with a stick with all of them, so we'll see.
And then we close things out, All-Star game on Sunday. What's going to mean to see Kemba take the court as an All-Star starter?
I think it just validates his career to this point. I think it validates this organization for just how they've developed him, and he's been a part of that too. But I think everything, and this fan base, I think it's been craving to be on a national stage like that, and so you'll be able to do it not only nationally, internationally. It's a global game, and so I think that's going to mean a lot to have Kemba as a starter in the All-Star game and be out there for those introductions. Oh my gosh, can you imagine?
I'm going to have chills.
It's going to be incredible, and I think, like we were saying, Michael talked about how impressive and just different and special and unique it was to be a player in your city as a starter in the All-Star game. And I think for Kemba, is he going to be an MVP? He's told us, I don't know. I'd like to do it. Obviously, Glen Rice won the MVP back in '97 in Cleveland in the All-Star game with his scoring off the bench. Still holds an NBA record for points scored in a single quarter. But I think for Kemba, there will be guys deferring to him, and that'll be new, right? And not that they're just going to let him do whatever he wants, but they know he's earned this. It's in his city, in his building, on his court, and so they're going to give him latitude at times. Kemba, go get yours. Go cook. We want to see you show off, and I think Kemba's going to be certainly willing and able to do that. But I think if he can thrive in those moments, when those spurts come, because they come in very short bursts, but those 2 to 3 minute segments in the game where guys recognize you're getting hot, it's your time, it's your city, we're going to get out of the way. If Kemba takes advantage of those, I think it's entirely realistic to think he could be in the mix for All-Star Game MVP.
Yeah, and to see his growth over the course of the last 3 years. The first All-Star Game, I think he was afraid to shoot the ball.
Yeah.
In the second All-Star Game, he starts becoming more involved. I really look for him to try and take over a little bit in this All-Star Game.
Yeah, he knows I belong, right? It's my time. You guys get out of the way. I'm going to get some shots up here.
All right, well, we got a great All-Star weekend ahead, but basketball doesn't stop there, folks. We'll still have 4 games here at Spectrum Center the week after the break, starting off with Washington and Brooklyn on a Friday-Saturday set. and it's going to close on Monday, Wednesday with games against the Golden State Warriors and the Houston Rockets. Great games to get out here. Make sure you get tickets. Thanks for joining us.